What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm gonna be honest, not happy with the state of Pokemon's casino. So, what do I mean by casino? Well, I'll get into that. But today we're gonna be talking about card rarities, recent ETB promos in general. So, what are the rarities of ETB promos? The current state of the prices of packs, and kind of how I'm just kind of not going to play the Pokemon Casino anymore. It's just not worth the roll, the dice roll, the slot machine pull. It's not worth any of that to me right now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why, okay? So first, as you guys know, there's all kinds of different card rarities. Commons, rares, secret rares, up to Ultra. Then you have the full art version. And then you've got, full art trainers, hyper rares, secret rares, newer sets, amazing rares. And then there's things like promos, right? And even more so, there's promos that we know they're print run, right? So there's a difference between a Champion's Path promo and a Kanazawa or a Kyoto Tea Party Pikachu, right? And so let's talk about that, right? So the Kanazawa and Kyoto Pikachus, these came out in promo boxes in Japan that were celebrating a release of a specific event. So it's relevant to the time frame and place of the event. So, in all cases, there's Kanazawa, Kyoto, there's a Shibuya one, there's all Tokyo, and that is so much different than our Champion's Path and Hidden Fates promo cards, right? So let's talk about this, right? Right now, Danny Phantom just released a video talking about how most modern sets in Sword and Shield are not worth opening, and I totally agree with him. The value of these cards, right? So I'll give you an example. To open a Sun and Moon pack today, I assume they've gone up since I've looked at them, but they're at least $5 or $5 or $6, right? This Umbreon is worth about 3, the GX. Then the full art is worth about 8 to 10, something like that, right? Maybe less actually. And I'm only promised one of these, one or two full arts in general. There could be 10 in a set, that in one booster box, right? So when we think about that, when we think about how you may or may not even get a full art trainer in a booster box, and let alone something in the secret slot for a set, you are not looking at very high pull rates. But there's a ton of Pokemon printed, right? And so, as we know, Pokemon just announced reprints. And so we saw online price retracements of recent booster boxes. So Vivid Voltage was going for 300, now it's going for 200, which I think is very healthy. However, that because the reprints were announced, and because we know Pokemon's not only reprinting, but they're making more printers, we know there's going to be a lot more opened, and we know that we're going to be seeing a lot more cards like Rainbow Alistair and Pikachu V Max, the chunky one. We're going to be seeing a lot more of those cards eventually. So effectively what these reprints have done is they said, okay, we'll retrace the price of the box now, and by announcing it, but also these singles are still pricey right now, right? Because not enough of it has been opened. The problem here is that once these things start getting reprinted, we're going to start to see the value of our collection in singles go down, and then eventually our sealed product go up. And so, and what am I getting at? Is that right now a pack of Vivid Voltage costs on average $8, $7.50, $8. There are only 8 or so cards in the set that are worth more than $8, and your pull rates on those are extremely low, okay? Like, there's more than 8. There's probably like 12. It's Vivid Voltage. But that being said, I just can't justify opening packs anymore, and that's because anything with a rarity, no matter how rare it is, right, is now subject to reprinting, and there's already hundreds of thousands of booster boxes printed. So we know there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of each of these cards. So let's talk about these promo cards. The same is true for these. Every time Champion's Path gets a reprint, we see more and more of these Charizards. Why is this relevant? Because back in December, this is a current listing, we would see one of these sell for $25. Now, this is a listing that's been up for some time, and they can't even sell 3 of them for $30 after shipping, and the seller's willing to take a 10% eBay fee, right? So that's that's a big red flag for me. And so I think if you're considering collecting stuff like this, promos, whether it's a holographic that comes in a pin box, like first of all, collect what you want, you guys. Please do. Like if you enjoy it, etc. But not everything is an investment, you guys. Not everything in the hobby is an investment. If you think that these singles are going to go up infinitely, I'm sorry, but you're wrong, right? And the reason I say that is because if you just look at, sure, late XY era and early Sun Moon era, printed to oblivion. But we've seen their sealed product go up, but we haven't seen their singles go up. And even now, right, we're going to be seeing extremely high print rates, and these cards and their single values are so much higher than XY Sun and Moon era. XY Sun and Moon era singles are still cheap. It is cheaper to complete most Sun and Moon era sets than it is to complete anything in Sword and Shield. And so you need to consider that your singles are probably the highest value they'll ever be at right now in Sword and Shield era sets. So Darkness Ablaze, Rebel Clash, Sword Shield Base, Vid Voltage. And that if there's anything you don't want in your collection, now is probably a good time to sell, especially if you're looking at getting Shining Fates. But that is a whole different story. Whereas, like, I don't think the current market cost of $150 to open Shining Fates is worth the casino fee. You're literally paying to engage in a slot machine, which is fine, right? That's part of the hobby. But I think you should really consider that if there's any of the more collectible, high-end stuff that you want to try out, like some of these Pikachu Japanese cards, Mario Pikachu is expensive, so good luck. If you can get those, good for you. I can't. I'll tell you that. But if there's anything you've been thinking about that's maybe a little older or whatever, now is not a bad time to buy, because we will see reprints in the future. We will see the cost of singles in the sets that have come out in the last year, but also in the sets that will come out in the next year. We'll see the price of those singles go down, and potentially and likely more of those sets being in stores. So what I'm saying here is not to stop opening packs forever, but right now the casino isn't worth it. The jackpot is not high enough. And if you don't have the money to spend, or you just can't justify spending the money, total respect. So one last bit here, and I'm going to compare Pokemon to another TCG that I engage in called Flesh and Blood. It's relatively new, but the secondary market, I'll give you an example. This card is $600. This card is $350 to $450, depending on condition. Okay? And why is that? When there's maybe one 10,000th or even 1/100,000th of the people engaging in Flesh and Blood versus Pokemon, right? There's just tiny, infinitesimally smaller fraction of people engaging in this. Why? Because we know more about the print runs, okay? We know that these were contained print runs. This card was only printed 2,000 times, and this one, in its first edition, was only printed 550 times, and in this current version, it's only printed in like 1 every 60 booster boxes, which is insane, okay? And what does that tell the secondary market? It tells the collectors exactly what they can expect with this card in the hobby. Whereas when we return to these, you have no idea, right? And that's why I like to point out stuff like these Pikachu cards, right? Because very, very rarely in the United States do we get like a one-off type promo. The only recent example I can think of, and I'm talking in the last few years, is the special delivery Pikachu that came in the Pokemon Center. And just look what that did. That thing, it's like $200, $300 now, right? And so, yeah, when you look at something like, you just want to consider what the print runs are, what that card is actually worth, and you have to recognize that right now, everyone's sitting on a bunch of these singles, expecting them to go up. Most of the purchases that have been made, right? The collectors coming in have gotten the cards that they wanted or thought they wanted. So you need to consider that more of these are going to be added to the ecosystem, and that some of them will start to make their way out of the woodwork, and you'll start to realize that these types of cards can be reprinted infinitely, and you may or may not want them. Last note, before I get into it, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if you think there's a price that's overpriced, a card that's overpriced, underpriced, or just like if there's something, regardless of price, if there's something you're enjoying collecting right now that probably you can't really find at your Target or Walmart, assuming there's no scalpers or anything like that. If there's anything like that, let me know. I would love to hear about it in the comments. What are you collecting right now? And the last bit, so I want to compare, lastly, the Champ's Path Charizard to Hidden Fates birds. The reason these are different is because while they are probably printed about the same, if there's probably more stained glass birds than there are Charizard promos from Champ's Path at the moment. But the reason these are desirable, and this goes into the last bit, not just print runs, but is it unique? Is it a special kind of card? As SM Pred always says, the older, the minter, the rarer, and then I think he added a fourth one, which is like the uniqueness or coolness or whatever, the better, right? And this is just a collectible card. It is a beautiful art. No other card has stained glass artwork like this. And so you need to consider that. And the reason I bring up this comparison in particular, and I do think the birds will actually go down in value, just because I think a lot of people are hoarding them, and eventually they, maybe they do and maybe they don't. But the reason I point this out is because I've seen a lot of people buying a bunch of these Champion Path Charizards, thinking they're going to be $100 a piece. And you just have to remember, there's one for every ETB that was printed, and those ETBs had multiple reprints, and they could still be reprinted in the future. So just a reminder, thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming to the channel, and like I said, we got always more Pokemon and Flesh and Blood videos, and I love to compare the two. I think it's so important to be able to look across similar hobbies and understand trends, understand what people are looking forward, and hopefully you can bring some positivity from one into the other and both ways around. So that's it, guys. This was Cardboard Dreams. My name is Sean, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.